Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are at the start of the 2035 season. We are the defending World Series champions, and the goal from ownership is to win it all again this year. So, pressure as usual is on the Yankees. Have the highest payroll in baseball right now. We went a little crazy last offseason, even though we were very happy with our roster and didn't see the need to make any changes. Wander Franco was a free agent coming off of his sixth MVP award, and we decided to bring him on board to join the team. Unfortunately, he got banged up right at the start of spring training, and it looks like he's going to be out close to another month by the time he does a rehab assignment in the minors. We're also losing three starting pitchers right now. Kindon Lavelle is out for the year with elbow ligament reconstruction surgery, but Ruben Mariona, the 23-year-old who pitched brilliantly for us in 9 starts last year, and then Tyson Neighbors, who should slot in as our number 2 starter, are both also out for a bit here as the season gets underway. So we're going to be operating with a less than optimal rotation as the season starts, and a less than optimal lineup, but hopefully we have Mariona, Neighbors, and Franco back over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we are firing on all cylinders before we know it. We're expected to be a dominant team. We're expecting ourselves to be a dominant team, hoping to have an easy victory in the American League East this year and go on to try to get a repeat world championship for the Yankees. If you're enjoying the series, would really appreciate it if you like our videos, subscribe to the channel, and would love to hear your comments down below. But we are going to kick off the season right now, and we'll stop in and let you know when something interesting happens or we come across an interesting decision that we need to make. Well, we've made it to the end of April. Yankees are 12-9, not having a dominant season, but we are in first place in the American League East by a game at this point. And we also did recently get Wander Franco back from the injured list, had him play a couple games in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, 4 games total, where he batted .400, and he's batting .417 here in the very early stages of his season. So good to have him on board. A few injuries that we are dealing with still. Second baseman Jose Montoya has been on the IL for most of the season, got banged up early. Not the worst thing in the world with us having brought on Franco, because that's letting Victor Mejias, who would have been kind of in a super utility role, play second base regularly now since Franco came back, and get some experience there. Actually going to have an interesting decision with Montoya next year. He's going to be a free agent at the end of this season. And with Franco now in at third base, there is an argument to be made that we just move Mejias to second base and we let Montoya go. Certainly no certainty that we will do that. Montoya has been a really good player for us since he first came up and is pretty strong defensively, so would be a loss to not have him back. But by the same token, he's probably going to be looking for $20 million plus. Speaking of players looking for some money, Jack Leiter has reached out to us, and he's looking for an extension. We are paying him $8 million this year. He just turned 35. Still has an above-average starting pitcher profile. He is fragile now, but he's actually pretty important to our rotation. You know, the hope is that as we get people back, he slots more in as our fourth kind of starter rather than our second starter that he is right now. But he's pretty reasonable in his contract demands, looking for a little over $10 million. We're going to offer him a little less than that and see if we can maybe get a deal done. And Leiter was looking for about $10.2 million a year for 3 years with a player option and a no-trade clause. We're going to offer him about $9 million average, exactly $9 million average over 3 years with a team option and no-trade clause. See if he'll go for that. And he's willing to listen to that offer. So if we're able to bring him back at a fairly reasonable contract, feel pretty good having him hopefully as a 4th or 5th starter in our rotation for another few years. Tyson Neighbors, one of the pitchers that we've been hoping to get back soon to move Leiter back down to a more appropriate spot in the rotation, just suffered a bit of a setback, so he's probably gone for at least another week. Ruben Mariona has been down rehabbing in Scranton, has pitched 4 games now with a 3.18 ERA, but he didn't get any spring training at all. You can see he only got up to 55 pitches in his last rehab start. So we are probably going to give the youngster another couple starts in AAA before we bring him back up, given that we're still in first place, even though we haven't had him all season. And we did get Jack Leiter signed for that 3-year deal, which is positive. Our closer, Tim Wallace, is also looking for an extension. 29 years old. He has been exceptional for us as a closer since we picked him out of Stanford in the 4th round, and he was up in the majors pretty quickly after that. He's looking for over $14 million a year right now. That's certainly not something we're going to agree to right away. See how the season goes, see if he's still healthy at the end of the year. He's got an incredible profile. He's an extreme ground ball pitcher who can throw over 100 miles an hour with just incredible stuff, very good movement, positive control, and then 2 great pitches with his fastball and splitter. Would love to have him back, but don't really know that we need to be spending $14 million a year on a closer. So no rush to decide what we're going to do with Tim Wallace. We'll wait and probably figure that one out at the end of the season. And just as we thought things might be stabilizing with our pitching staff, with Mariona nearing the end of his rehab assignment, and Tyson Neighbors starting his out, Max Alba just got banged up with a dead arm for 4 weeks. You can see he hasn't been very good. In fact, he's been brutal, pitching his way to a 12.39 ERA. Would have been someone who was coming out of the rotation anyways once we got both Mariona and Neighbors back. But we'll need to send him to the IL. And Mariona did pitch 1 more game down in AAA, pitched 94 pitches 5 days ago. We were going to give him 1 more start, but now with Alba going on to the injured list, it's time to bring up the youngster, Mariona, and get him back into the rotation. And we're also going to bring Montoya up. He played 1 game in Scranton just to get the rust off a little bit. That will mean that we'll be sending the youngster, Jesus Mendoza, down to the minors, who has actually been pretty respectable for us, but he'll probably get more playing time now with Montoya back if we send him down to AAA. And the Yankees are playing some great baseball now. You can see our record is 27-13, 8-2 over our last 10 with an 8-game winning streak. We're up by 6 on the Orioles. So now that we've got getting closer to our planned roster back, we're playing much better. Tyson Neighbors has been down in Scranton, pitched 3 times so far, just kind of rehabbing from his injury, so hopefully we'll have him soon. But some bad injury news, Bobby Chapa has a sore shoulder, which is going to impact him for a week. In the interest of being careful, we're just going to put him on the IL. Can't afford to lose our ace for an extended period of time. And then Wander Franco is also banged up with a shoulder strain, and Bo Bichette, we're waiting to hear a injury diagnosis on our shortstop. So taking a few lumps with, you could argue between Bichette, Franco, and Chapa that they're our 3 most important players. So they'll all be missing some time over the next few weeks. Hopefully the injury to Bo Bichette is not all that serious. And unfortunately, Bo Bichette has a fractured thumb, so he's going to be out for 6 weeks. Place him on the injured list. Hopefully we'll have him back by the beginning of July. Honestly, the acquisition of Franco is actually working out decently for us now, because now we will be likely playing Franco at third, Mejias at second, and Jose Montoya at shortstop while Bichette is out. So we're going to be getting plenty of playing time for all of the infielders on our team. Also waiting to hear about an injury to Ruben Mariona. We just found out, torn meniscus, out for 4 months. So the youngster just can't remain healthy. was 6-1 with the Yankees in 9 starts last year, and was 2-1 with a 2.84 ERA in his 3 starts this year, but going to miss most of the rest of the regular season, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll be back in time to make an impact for us in the playoffs if we need him, but probably should have invested a little more in our starting rotation than we did over the off season, but we were very tempted by the shiny object that is Wander Franco, and he's obviously having a brilliant season for us, batting .383, so certainly never going to regret bringing a player like that on board, even if we have to kind of piece through our starting rotation in a little bit of a MacGyver fashion at this point, with duct tape and toothpicks to keep things together until we get everybody back. And some really bad news for the Yankees as we head into mid-June. Bo Bichette had a setback in his recovery from his fractured thumb. Going to be out about another 8 weeks now and having surgery tomorrow. So, he's fragile at this point in his career, but this is really the first season that he's going to be, major injuries. You can see if we look at his batting stats. He's played 121 and 136 games the last 2 years. His first few years with us, he was playing 150 a year. So he's definitely gotten more fragile, and this is obviously going to be the fewest games that he's ever going to play with us. Certainly he's 37 years old. He's starting to break down. He does have a player option for next season. We had to give him that to be able to bring him back. Didn't love doing it. Will be interesting to see when we get to the off season what he does with that player option. But we are still easily in first place in the AL East, up 5.5 games on Tampa, 7.5 on Baltimore. So we can play it very conservatively with all of our players at this point and don't need to rush anybody back. The point is to be healthy and well in the postseason, which is what we're going to focus on. Well, we've reached the midway point of the season. Not surprisingly, owner Brad Kreider is not happy with us. We're 48-32. We're not playing as well as we did last year, but we're still up 5 games in the American League East with the second best record in the American League. But he really wants us to turn things around during the second half. Certainly not meeting expectations, but we're still going to easily win the division and easily be a playoff team. So that seems a little extreme, but he is not pleased that we haven't cut payroll, and he's not pleased that we haven't increased profitability. So he's not thrilled with us right now, but that's fine. We are, going to be heading into the draft shortly. Have money if we decide to make a trade when we get closer to the trade deadline. Basically just hoping that everyone on the team gets healthy eventually. Bo Bichette still out for another 5 weeks. Ruben Mariona going to be out for 3 months, but hopefully we'll have him back just in time for the playoffs. And then Chris Cox and starting pitcher Kindon Lavelle are bigger questions. Don't think that they will be ready to go even if we do make the playoffs, but obviously would be a big bonus if one or both of them recover from their injuries a little more quickly than anticipated. And the Yankees are closing in towards the trade deadline, and I just lost Brian Abreu to a ruptured tendon in his finger for 4 months, so he is done for the year, unfortunately. We are going to spend a little time now kind of taking a look at are there any decent starters and relievers available on the trade block. Only got a couple days left to kind of figure that stuff out, and think it probably makes sense to see if we can bring a little bit of reinforcements on board. We are still in great shape in the division, up 12.5 games in the American League East, and we now have the best record in the AL and the best record in baseball, so performing a little bit more in line with our lofty expectations over the last few weeks, but still have some work to do because the rotation is not as deep as it has been in the past, and with Bichette out and Mariona and Lavelle out. No guarantees that we're going to have Mariona back in time for the playoffs. It looks like, he should be back late September. Maybe he pitches a game or two before the playoffs, but we are all in on this season and just want to make sure we put ourselves in as good a position as possible to win it all. And there are some insane players on the trade block with both Ronald Acuna Jr. and Juan Soto on, obviously highlighting the trade block anytime players like that are potentially available, but not really what we need. We are still going to look more for pitchers. Not a ton available as far as high-quality starting pitchers, unfortunately. Jeff McKinney, at least based on star ratings, looks like the best of the crew, 28-year-old. Actually has a decent profile and with very good stuff, plus movement, plus control. The issue is that he's really only got 2 great pitches and then a decent, acceptable knuckle curve, so he's kind of a 3-pitch pitcher, and you can see over the course of his career that has resulted in an ERA plus of 86 and a FIP minus of 106, so kind of a below average starter overall, so not incredibly exciting, but maybe the best option out there. But we're going to spend a little time thinking about if there's anyone we can bring on to just kind of bolster our depth at the back of the rotation and give us a little insurance policy in case there are extra injuries. But the thought would certainly not be that this person is starting for us in the postseason unless something goes poorly. And we've kind of narrowed in on 2 options here among the starting pitchers. Nick Jones, good stuff, decent movement, decent control, 3 solid to very good pitches. Career stats, 111 ERA plus, 91 FIP minus. So he's a pretty proven starter. He's making close to $15 million a year, and he's got another year on his contract. So I don't know that we can't take it on unless the Twins were willing to pay a lot of it. Tyler Fullman, another option. Slightly above average stuff in control, average movement, but 3 good pitches over the course of his career. He has put up a 89 ERA plus and a 106 FIP minus, so a bit of a below average pitcher, but could be just a little depth for the rotation, and he's only making $840,000 and is going to be a free agent. So he is definitely a potential option. Other than that, it's a lot of guys who are really kind of 2.5 pitch starters. Justin Martinez is the one exception, another guy making a little more money, actually a lot more money, $13.7 million for each of the next couple of years. So we would need Washington to retain a chunk of his contract, and he's kind of been a league average type starter over the course of his career, although he has made 3 all-star teams, but none since 2031. So there's some respectable options out there. Nobody that is going to be a difference maker, but if we need a 4th or 5th starter due to some injuries and someone to just give us competent innings while hopefully our offense batters people into submission, I think there are some prospects here to pick up a pitcher who kind of meets that framework. And we are going to go ahead and make the trade for Tyler Fullman, the least expensive of the options, kind of a 4th or 5th starter, but gives us a little bit of depth if we have some injuries. He did make an all-star team back in 2031. Not going to cost us much for him. Just have to send a minor league left fielder, Mike Louvier, who's really got a great personality, has been a great person to have on our team, was a 5th-round draft pick for us, but has not made it much above high A ball. So happy to do that deal and bring on a kind of insurance starter for us to give us a little more depth as we make our playoff push. And it looks like Tyler Fullman's going to do exactly what we hoped he would do, slot in as the 4th pitcher in our rotation behind Chapa, Neighbors, and Leiter. Obviously, the hope is to get Mariona back before the end of the year to bolster our rotation. But if we don't get Mariona back, and we're almost certainly not going to get Kindon Lavelle back, feel a little better if Tyler Fullman has to kind of be our fourth starter in the playoffs, pitching once in potential ALCS or a World Series for us. And some very surprising news. I mentioned not too long ago that we thought we would not get Kindon Lavelle back this year. It was almost a certainty, but he's making great progress recovering from that elbow ligament reconstruction surgery. So only 2 weeks away. We'll have to send him down to Scranton to rehab and see what he actually looks like on the other side of that major injury at the age of 32. The real positive thing about this, in addition to potentially being a nice arm to add into our rotation, is that we're going to have a team option for him next year, and we'll have, hopefully a good month of him pitching in the majors to see exactly what he looks like before having to make that decision in the coming off season. So some good news there on the injury front, which has been rare for us. Bad news, Eric Kerr is a little banged up, starting center fielder day-to-day for 1 to 2 weeks. Not a critical injury. We'll probably put him on the IL just to be particularly cautious, since we are now into August and past the trade deadline. We're up 12 games on the Blue Jays in the division. Division isn't over yet, but feeling pretty confident that we're going to win. So if we have to put players on the IL as a precautionary measure, more than happy to do that at this point. And putting Eric Kerrs onto the IL is going to allow us to bring back our old friend Jason Dominguez. I mentioned that we had brought him on with a minor league contract. Certainly not what he used to be, only hitting .232 down in Scranton with 13 home runs. And certainly not a great defensive center fielder, but gives us a little bit of flexibility there. Will be interesting to see. I would think that our manager will probably move Kevin Daniels into center field, but we'll bring up Dominguez and then see what the lineup actually looks like with Eric Kerrs out. And yeah, Kevin Daniels is going to move into center field. He is having a really nice season for us in his first full year in the majors. We talked about him. He was a first-round draft pick, but has just developed into an awesome offensive player kind of unexpectedly over the past few seasons, which has been a great addition to the team for us. And the Yankees have made it into September, getting close to clinching a playoff spot with a magic number of 19, up by 15 games on Tampa in the American League East. Best record in the AL and best record in baseball by about a couple of games over San Francisco at this point. So things are going well, and Kindon Lavelle, who came back early from that serious injury, has been pitching in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Not particularly effective with a 5.40 ERA and a 73 ERA plus, but we've scouted him a few times, and it doesn't seem like he's really kind of completely fallen off. So we are going to bring him back up to the major league team with the roster expansion here. Take a look at what the rotation looks like. And yeah, he's going to slot in as our fourth starter. So we'll see how he does at the major league level. But, now that we have Lavelle and Fullman, who we picked up right before the trade deadline, feel that we should be able to certainly piece together a fourth starter for the playoffs when we need one, behind Chapa, Neighbors, and Leiter. And obviously still holding out hope that perhaps Ruben Mariona could get back from that torn meniscus before the end of the season. We'll need a little time to rehab in Scranton Wilkes-Barre without a doubt, but would be nice to have him back in the pitching staff for the rotation, in the pitching staff for the playoffs, whether or not he's in the rotation or in the bullpen. And we've simmed ahead to September 21st, and the good news is that the Yankees just clinched the AL East. Even though we've lost 3 in a row, we're still up 15.5 with a 91-56 record. So the only question now is whether we can hold on to have the best record in the American League. You can see the White Sox have 89 wins and the A's have 90 wins. So in a bit of a battle with those three teams to see who can have the best record in the American League and whether any of those clubs, including ourselves, can get to 100 wins. So that will certainly be the goal down the stretch here. Ruben Mariona is now back from his injury. We are going to send him to a rehab assignment in the minors, see if hopefully he can pitch a few innings down in Scranton, although their season's got to be close to coming to an end. So if their season is over, we'll just put him right on the major league roster, but would be great if he could at least pitch once or twice down there before we have to make a decision on him for the long term and what type of role he might have with us here in the upcoming playoffs. Yeah, and unfortunately, Scranton Wilkes-Barre's season is over, so we're going to have to move Mariona right on to the roster to get him a little playing time. We are going to be very cautious with him coming off of that injury. Going to just limit him to 20 pitches in at least his first outing. We'll see what Colin Cowgill decides to do with him. He does have him slotted in as our number 3 starter, so certainly great to have him back potentially, but only going to let him go 20 pitches in that first start as we try to ease him back into things here. And Mariona only pitched an inning for us, got the start, did throw 22 pitches, so got a little bit of work. We're going to bump him up to go 40 pitches potentially in his next start, and then potentially maybe he'll be ready to use by the playoffs. Probably can get 2 more starts out of him before we have to make those kind of decisions, so hopefully we can have him up to 60, 70 pitches by then and healthy and well as we get ready for the playoffs. And here in the final week of the season, just a few games left, Bo Bichette, back stiffness, going to have an impact on him for 2 weeks. So obviously not optimal ahead of the playoffs. Hopefully we've got a few days left in the regular season. We'll certainly let him rest the rest of the way. Hopefully that will help him be as healthy as possible by not using him for the next few days as we get close to the end of the season. But not optimal that he's getting banged up here close to the playoffs. So the 2035 regular season is over. Yankees won 97 games, won the American League East by 16 over both Baltimore and Tampa Bay. Kind of a slow end to the season though, with a 4-6 record down the stretch. Oakland finished up 7-3. They will have the home field advantage on us if we end up having to face them in the playoffs. And looking way ahead to a potential World Series. Both San Francisco and Milwaukee from the National League would have the home field advantage on us. So a bit of a sloppy season for the defending world champions, but still got 97 wins, still won the American League East easily. Taking a look at a few of the key batting stats. Not too many Yankees showing up. Gabe Cologne, who had a really great year, hitting .331, did have a 25-game hitting streak for us. Bobby Chappa, as he always tends to be, close to the lead in wins with 14, and he was second in the league with 233 strikeouts and third in the league in pitcher WAR. So a good solid season for Chappa in the first year of his long and lucrative extension with us. ZRA plus of 112 was down from where it had been, but hopefully he will bounce back a little bit next year. Until then, pleased that the Yankees got into the postseason, pleased that we won the American League East. The goal, as always, is to win the championship. We will be back in our next episode with a look at the playoffs. Not in a perfect situation as we head in with Victor Mejias banged up with back spasms. and Wander Franco, diagnosis pending with his injury, which could be very serious and would be a huge loss to us. Other than that, we'll have to see what happens with Bo Bichette. We've benched him with back stiffness. He'll be back soon, but finding out what happens with this Wander Franco injury is going to be critical for us. He missed some time at the beginning of the year, as you know, about the first month with us, but since then had a pretty close to typical Wander Franco season with a 329 batting average and a 140 OPS plus. 22 homers, 77 runs batted in. Just have to hope that he does not have a serious injury as we get closer to the playoffs starting. And Wander will be day-to-day for the next 2 to 3 weeks with a gluteus strain. Impact on his running, but no impact on hitting and throwing. Going to be hard to imagine that we're not going to want him to be in the lineup for us as much as possible. If it was us, we would probably put him at DH, even though, still going to be running after getting hits, hopefully. But we will leave that decision up to our manager, Colin Cowgill. And with that, we will wrap up this episode. In our next episode, we will be back with the 2035 playoffs as the New York Yankees try to repeat as world champions. Until then, thank you so much for watching and hope you have a great day.